It's Wednesday, April 24th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn more about a construction trade training program and revisit our deep dive on PFAS with Town Manager Mark Ells. Now for a look at municipal and legislative news. Hyannis has been impacted by highly fluorinated chemicals in drinking and groundwater, and 2 public meetings will be held next month to gather input for an effort to lower acceptable levels. The public involvement plan meeting is offered by the state's Department of Environmental Protection. It is for communities that want to learn more about their water quality and how they may have been impacted by contaminants. The meeting is May 2nd at Barnstable Town Hall from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And another meeting on proposed revisions for cleanup site rules will be held May 28th at Town Hall from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Cape Cod Community College offered a grant-funded construction trade training program that launched in February 2019, focusing on 2 educational tracks: construction worker and office administration and project management. A 60-hour internship with a local employer is included in the program. Tammy Jacobson, Director of Workforce Development and Training at the Center for Corporate and Professional Education, tells us more about the program and the need for internships. Calling all builders and remodelers in Barnstable. Do you need an intern? With me today, Tammy Jacobson, you are at the Center for
Corporate and Professional Education at Cape Cod Community College.
Right. This internship, so there's a new program out there. Let's explain that first to our viewers of what's going on for a certificate program for the building industry.
Sure. So we applied through the Department of Higher Education, a construction trade training program, a grant-funded program that allows students to, participants to obtain an entry-level position in the trades related to office administration and project management, and also construction worker essentials. The program kicked off in February, so students have run through a series of courses already in construction safety. They actually will get OSHA 30-hour certification. It's an industry credential for construction safety. And they've also run through some additional programming as some math refresher, blueprint reading, measuring. All the curriculum has been customized to the trades, and all the trades have had an input in that curriculum as well.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit. I'm not sure everyone knows, but the trade industry here on the Cape is a stable industry, and they are really looking for people to work. I mean, they are hurting for, I think all of our businesses have some issues with finding employees, but the trade industry specifically has been hurt by low unemployment.
Absolutely, and we've partnered with this grant with the Home Builders and Remodelers Association of Cape Cod, and they've been instrumental in helping us connect us with the employers and listening to their needs and what they were looking for. It's a wonderful industry to start working in. There's a lot of opportunity for growth and earning a sustainable wage here on the Cape as well.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the program. 19 have been enrolled since February.
Yes.
Somewhat evenly split between the 2 cohorts. So
yes.
You have the project management and office management. Tell me a little bit about what they're learning there.
Sure. So office administration / project management is the track 2. They're learning computer essentials. They all run through the OSHA safety programming together. They've all run through some blueprint reading and some shop essentials together. But the 2 tracks split off just recently for computer essentials, project management, and then the other track is the construction worker essentials track, where they're doing a lot more with fall prevention, safety on the job site. They're learning about tool safety. Every student in the program actually received a full tool belt with tools and a safety hat and goggles, so they have all the protective equipment needed. So we've been really excited. We have a great group of students really eager to meet employers for an internship, and that's the next step in this process.
All right. And what does an internship do for these students? It seems like, you're learning everything in the classroom, but practical use, is that, of that knowledge?
Absolutely, in the trades. Hands-on at the employer, learning about how that employer works, their processes, their policies, their procedures, really gives them an overall well-rounded training program. And it gives them an opportunity to make connections with the employer too, and hopefully they will obtain a job after the internship is complete.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about some of those positions. Is it just swinging a hammer?
No. So we were just talking about this the other day. The students are coming back in a couple of weeks together. They've been off on their tracks learning, but they're coming back together to do some construction permitting and inspection education, because many of them might be running between town hall or back and forth to obtain permits or understanding the permit process for the construction worker essentials. They could be guiding individuals on the job site that are running operating machinery or something like that. So we wanted to make sure that they were not just swinging a hammer, that they play an intricate role even as an entry-level position, that we're thinking about and having the employers be mindful of that. And then with the office administration project management, many of these students already have some experience in other fields, just not construction, so they're bringing their wealth of experience to this, and they're able to really integrate what they've prior knowledge with the knowledge that they're learning and be able to become an asset.
All right.
And
I'm curious, age here, you said some of these folks are just going into new careers?
It's very, the age range is it's varied.
Right.
We have some individuals, younger individuals that were straight out of high school, and we also have some adult learners that are changing careers or looking for a change of pace here on the Cape.
Wow. Anything else you want folks to know about this program?
Just that we're doing a call out today to employers. We're really looking for employers to help us with hosting an intern. We have a great group of students. They've been wonderful. They're helping each other. They've really formed a bond with each other. So it's been wonderful to see multi-generational adult learners working together. So it's been a great program, very rewarding.
Right. How do people, so if we have a business owner out there that's looking for one of these interns, how do they get through the process here?
Sure. They would actually contact me,
Okay.
Tammy Jacobson, and my phone number is 508-375-5011.
Okay. And they would just need to call you and
Yes.
give you what their needs would be.
Absolutely. And we'll walk them through the process of guidelines and information, but it's a very simple process.
Excellent. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are the most ubiquitous man-made chemicals in the world. People can be exposed to these chemicals from direct contact with products, through the air they breathe, or through the food they eat. They can also be exposed through drinking water. Town Manager Mark Ells joins us in studio for another deep dive. Town Manager is back. We're talking water again. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
So there's lots of things going on with water. We hear about it at town council meetings. We hear about it in the newspaper. We hear about it from you. But this new emerging contaminants and the PFAS issue is really coming to the forefront of discussions now.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you today is, if there is a change from our last discussion of standards, how does the town actually manage something like that? When standards are suddenly changed, they're not sudden, obviously, they go through things with the state. How is the town going to manage changes like that?
Excellent question. You know, it's funny, I had that question from one of our customers during the rate hearings that we did this year. I had it from a the former board of our water board, our Hyannis Water Board. And you know, we've recognized that there are multiple ways to manage the issue of what you do when you see that resource of the existing wells, you know, somehow challenged. And PFAS is absolutely a challenge for all of us. And so what we've done already is town council gave us an appropriation to go forward with an alternatives analysis looking at how do you manage this issue. And what we've done is we've really broken it into 3 parts. And we look at the existing wells and what we need to do with those wells. Now, a lot of people will say, the system was built over 100 years ago. And when they built this system and they put in these wells, there wasn't an urban area immediately up gradient. There wasn't a fire training academy or an airport. There wasn't a lot. This was kind of a wooded area where you sited these wells, and now it is not. And we know that putting an urban area or up gradient of a down gradient receptor, in this case a water supply well, is going to present its challenges. And with these emerging contaminants, there are even greater challenges. And so, but you go to where the source exists, and you say, what can I do there? Can I rehabilitate it? Can I put filters on it? So we've gone through that exercise. And so for our system, we know what we need to do at every well so that we have a no detect in every well. We've done it at the Mary Dunn wells. We're doing it at the Mar wells. And we have another field down on the southwest side of the system where next Thursday night we're going to be asking for the funds to do the study and design permitting for that location. So we've done that piece. Another piece is looking at interconnects with abutting systems, and we've done that. And we physically interconnected with Yarmouth and with Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills. And at this point, we have not done an interconnect with the Barnstable water, which is the fire district that's in Barnstable Village. And that's mainly because they have capacity. I think they've got a couple of zones with pressure, so there's a couple of technical differences that create them less able to just interconnect, but we'll always continue to work with them, and if we can help them or if they can help us, we will certainly do that. So we've done that one. Third piece is looking at where we might put future potential water supplies. So you've heard me now for 2 years at Town Council talk about the Fish and Wildlife parcel. That's the 250 acres immediately to the east northeast of the Hyannis water system. And that's basically in between Mary Dunn Road and Willow Street. That big chunk of land there. And so we've made progress there, and hopefully we're going to have a sign off by the commissioner so that we can go out and put test wells in. But it isn't limited to that site. We've looked at that site. We've looked at the county farm site, and part of the settlement that we had with the county, if you remember, there was a lawsuit between the county and the town because of the fire training academy. Well, part of that was a second agreement that says we can go on there and put test wells in and see if that 100+ acre parcel is viable for a future potential water supply. We're also looking at parcels all the way out to the West Barnstable Conservation Land. We're going to move forward with this effort. We're going to look to site test wells to look at quantity and quality on all 6 of these areas, all the way on the west side from the West Barnstable Conservation Lands, on the east side to the Fish and Wildlife property, and the others in between. So you're going to be hearing more and more about this. Now, right away, questions will come up about that's not where the Hyannis water system is located. Well, this is the town of Barnstable. And what I've talked to the council about doing is reinstituting the Water Quality Advisory Committee, which was a town-wide, almost regional look at water supply. So we would work with Mashpee and Sandwich and our own town and all the water purveyors, and with Yarmouth and the county and the state, and begin to talk about water supply, but within Barnstable, certainly the boundaries of our own community, all of the different water supplies and how they interact. And at this point, more importantly, where we might put future water supplies. Because when you back away from this issue, you really begin to say, okay, urbanized areas, you probably don't want to site any new water supply wells down gradient of urbanized areas.
Right.
Doesn't matter if there's sewer or not, even though sewer would allow for the centralization of that and the control of it. But the problem is they don't regulate these emerging contaminants from sewage either. So that's another regulatory issue that we have. So by locating it in areas that aren't down gradient of urbanized areas, that's a positive thing. That's why Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills, for example, actually most of the other water purveyors in town don't have a lot of urbanized environment up gradient of their wells. Hyannis does.
Are they testing for that PFAS?
I can't speak specifically. I believe that they do have requirements to test for PFAS. I believe those requirements are different than the requirements that we have in regularity and the number of samples.
Okay.
So it is different. So as the DEP unfolds whatever its plan is for PFAS, the sampling requirements may change as well for everybody, and that may change this discussion dramatically depending on what the findings of that are.
Right.
But right now, given what we know, we're moving forward with that. And the question that I really got was, well, you're not doing anything along these lines. And actually, we got the money in 2017, and we're planning on going out and putting these test wells in this summer. It takes a while to get there.
Right.
It took time. We selected a consultant to work with us. Took time to prepare the report. We've moved forward with implementation of two of those pieces. We have the physical interconnects with both in place. We have filters either in place or in the process of being installed. Now the last piece is these future potential water supplies. And I went to Boston, I think I told you in my last conversation, to meet with the commissioner and deputy commissioner of Department of Environmental Protection, asking for an expedited permitting process, because typically it takes years to site a well. We feel that given the challenge that we have here on the Cape, and certainly here in Barnstable and in the village of Hyannis, we need an expedited process. So let's figure out the critical path to get from testing to tying into the distribution system, and let's make this happen in a shorter time frame as possible. And they recognize this, and they said, okay, we'll work with you on it. It's going to open up broad discussions in our community.
Right.
Citing a public water supply in West Barnstable that might service Hyannis is a big discussion for our community.
And just to bring it back a little bit, so the EPA had a webinar earlier this month talking about that they were going to come out with their standards, but it looks like Massachusetts has recognized this as a really a much faster piece that they're going to put standards of their own in as the Commonwealth rather than wait for the feds.
Absolutely. I think it could happen in days.
Really?
That's how imminent this is.
Right.
Now, what happens? See, that's the other confusion point, because the Office of Research Standards is really looking at, do they have health concerns about these emerging contaminants? So in general, they can say yes. At what level, over what period of time, and what affected group? Because they're all different. In the case of these PFAS, it's over a duration, and it's exposure to a limited group, and then there are limited health effects to it. That doesn't minimize that. That's important that they've identified that. And so I think the state of Massachusetts has said, hey, we know this exists. There's no reason not to proceed with this. So let's have a health advisory. Then the next step, and they said they were looking to adopt a health advisory formally by July of 19 is what I have heard from them. So now we move to, so what's next? Well, drinking water wells are regulated under MCLs. So it's a drinking water standard. And so they would hold a draft hearing and then a final hearing, and then they would adopt, and then they would allow time for compliance. So that is when you might not be compliant with drinking water regulations. That takes, from now till then, you're looking at a year or more. So I think what Massachusetts is saying is, we know the outcome we want, and so let's get moving on this. We have no disagreement with that at all. I think that the practical time frames that they have in place, and some of their regulations on the upper end of this, meaning when you have a point source, I think the regulators, because the issues with the Fire Training Academy, the control there is with the county and the state.
Right.
And we've intervened, and we've said, shouldn't be there, we don't want it there, no more activity there, and then it needs to be cleaned up. And we'll work with you toward that end. We will be supportive. And then we've responded at our well sites by putting filters on our wells to make sure that what's released from that site is non-detectable in the system. And at the Mary Dunn wells, we've achieved that. So go back. I think the regulators are also looking at, okay, how are we going to manage these point sources and make sure that they're not part of the bigger picture of this cycle of water. And they're going to need to relook at that. They're going to need to relook at it right here in the town of Barnstable. And so we have those discussions going with them as well. And I feel like we're progressing toward all that we've just discussed in a positive way, and we, in the end, have the same outcomes, protection of public health and safety.
Right.
It's just a matter of how do you get there, and what's the time frame to get there. That's what's
Right.
really critical, and to not panic the public if there isn't a need to communicate in a way that creates that sort of feeling.
Right.
That's all.
There's more information coming. I'm sure we'll have a few more discussions as the state
And
gets
coming
everything
weeks,
in.
and I really want to get these PSAs out there for these public service
right.
announcements for people, so that they, a lot of people have said to me, they had a, rather than Teflon, in, I was talking to a fellow who had some heart surgery with a valve, and some parts have titanium and others have Teflon. And he has the titanium, so he was reading something and he said to me, geez, I'm glad I didn't have the other.
Right.
Well, that's not regulated.
Right.
And it's different, even though it's in the body and it can be circulated through the body. That's kind of part of, they got to look at the whole process of this. You can't just go to the drinking water source as the only point where you're looking at how, for example, PFAS can get introduced into a system. You got to
Right.
look at where it's coming from. And you
Right.
got to figure, okay, what do we do there? Do we tell people don't buy those products anymore?
Right.
Don't use those products? Whatever it might be. So there's other states, because I saw an infomercial the other day with a non-Teflon pan, a non-stick, non-Teflon, and it was flashing at the bottom, PFAS, PFOA free. So,
right.
and that was a result, and then I kind of started looking into it, and it's because the state where those were being sold had regulations in place. So
Right.
people want to know, I don't want to buy that product if ultimately it's going to end up somewhere where I don't want it to be, in me or
Right.
in our drinking water. So-
Right, which, brings up landfills and everything like that.
Absolutely.
This particular chemical is ubiquitous in our lives at this
Yes.
point in time.
Yes, it is. It's something that's regular in what we use every day. And until now, parts per million or billion, you needed a point source. Now at parts per trillion, you don't need a lot of this into the system to create challenges.
Right. Well, we're up for the challenges, and like I said, we'll have more conversations, so everybody stays informed.
I'll be here to share what I know.
Excellent. Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Here's a look at the upcoming meetings for boards, commissions, and committees. Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Main Street Hyannis will become a free playground for all ages from noon to 5 p.m. at the Sunday, April 28th Hyannis Open Streets. From Ocean Street to C Street, the car-free span will host a carefree collection of bands, games, and opportunities to dance and exercise. New this year, in cooperation with the state's Art Week program, is an invitation for plein air painters to set up their easels along Main Street and capture the lively cityscape. There's also a scavenger hunt for original art by Barnstable High School creators. You can learn more at hyannisopenstreets.com. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, or email us, or send us even a note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.